So, Scott, after the Olympics, you were studying at the time, engineering, I think. Is that right?
Yeah. Yes. I had gone to England in '67 for the Admirals Cup. I didn't sail with my father. They had a great team and a great group, and they won their class. Well, they won 3 races out of the 4, I think, and won their class in the Fastnet race. But I went and did the Fastnet race myself. I did it with Britton Chance in a German 1-tonner. And after that, we went, he asked me if I'd like to go and sail in the 3-man keelboat trials in Travemünde in Germany. That's the famous one where the Etchells won almost all the races, and yet the IYRU somehow managed to choose the Soling, even though she was 4 feet shorter than what they had asked for and half the weight and so on and so forth. But I met Britton Chance, and he talked to me about 5.5 meter design, and when I came back, that's partly why I encouraged other people to build some of his boats. I did the Olympics, and then went back to studying and finished a degree in 1971. And I had met, amongst the 5.5 meter people I'd met was Ted Turner, who was an avid 5.5 meter sailor. And he said to me, "Hey, Scott, would you like to come and sail on American Eagle?" And American Eagle had done the trials and not won, and then she'd had an interior put in. Still the same rig, all the beautiful rigging that they'd used in the America's Cup. I sailed with him the SORC, which was the most famous regatta in those days in Florida. After that, we did a Montego Bay race, we did a transatlantic, and I didn't do the Fastnet race with him that year, but I did it with another guy called Dennis Miller on Firebrand. And he was an amazing English sailor. So that gets us to 71. And after that year, I came back, got involved in yacht design in Sydney, had a little company up at Mona Vale called Supersonic Yachts, where we built quite a few 27-footers. But I also got involved with Bob Miller, again, when he had designed Ginko for Dennis O'Neill and Gary Bogard. And I got a little bit involved with the construction of that boat. But I sailed on her as part of the team, and we had sailed all of 1972 together, and then we did the Hobart race. Mm-hmm. Sometime before the Hobart race, maybe like September, October, they had launched a sister ship to Ginko, which was Apollo, I don't know. 2.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, Apollo 2. Mm-hmm. And we did that Hobart race, and we were joined together by a piece of string the whole way to Hobart. I mean, even going up the Derwent River, we were still together. And the only reason Ginko won, is, if I remember correctly, is that Apollo was ahead of us, the breeze died on the shore, and they immediately tacked. Patience can be a virtue sometimes, you know. And they went out into the current, and we continued on, and we didn't see them again. We beat them by 4 or 5 minutes or something like that.
But of course, that race was won by Ted Turner in American Eagle.
Exactly.
Caprice of Huron was second.
Exactly.
And Ginko was third.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Yes. So.
And then you went on to the Admirals Cup in '73 with Apollo 2 and Ragamuffin.
Yes.
The Australian team.
Well, yes. So at that time, I was 24 or 25, and Gary Bogard and Dennis O'Neill owned the boat. I'm not sure exactly how all that worked, but Dennis really ran the program, and he came to me prior to the '72 Hobart race, and he said, "Well, Scott," he said, you'll be bringing the boat back from Hobart, right?" And I mean, you know, I'm a 24-year-old kid. I mean, I had done a lot of sailing, and but I guess I stammered and said, "Well, yes, I could do that." So we gathered together a group and brought the boat back, and hey, she got back in one piece. This is all pre-GPS, and you know, it was a big challenge, you know. And then 73 rolls around, and we take the boat to the Admirals Cup, and Dennis says to me, "Well, look, Scott, you could go and pick the boat up in London at the docks, you know." And
take it to Cows.
yeah, take it to
Easy,
Cows.
easy.
You know, what could go wrong?
Yeah.
You know, I mean, and you've got to think that that's hugely amount of traffic. You know, I mean, commercial traffic. The tide in the river and the tides in the English Channel. I mean, this is not something to mess around with. And but again, I had a couple of friends in London. We not great sailors, but we got the boat there. Yeah. Anyhow.
And Germany won the Admirals Cup that year for the first time, 73.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes, that was amazing.
Yeah.
It was very light air.
Yeah.
We had done well in the preliminary races. I think we even won the Dinard race or something like that. And it was just very light for us. Too light for Ginko.
And Australia was second that year. And then I'll take you forward to the 73 Hobart race, Ceil 3.
Oh, yes. So, well, I had a very busy year after that Admirals Cup. I mean, I also did the Quarter-Ton Cup with Jack Knights. Do you remember Jack? Yes.
Absolutely.
Odd Job was the name of the boat. And I also went to Porto and did the One-Ton Cup. I turned up there and had the good fortune for me, bad fortune for one of the crew on Gambare, that he'd cut himself, had a bad cut. And they asked me, I ended up doing 2 races with those guys. But as you say, back in Sydney, and we did the 73 Hobart on Ceil 3. She was a big one-tonner for the time, almost around 40 feet, I think. Not a huge amount of sail area, but anyhow, we sailed 6 up, but the boat was set up so that it was really easy to crew. All the equipment and gear was all set up so that, you know, the helmsman could help out a bit and so on and so forth.
And it was one of Bob's designs.
It was absolutely one of Bob's designs and beautifully built by Quilke.
Yeah.
Oh no, I think actually Doug Brooker built it. And so the navigator had taken course from CYCA.
Richard Hammond.
And he was a very keen navigator and young
Johnny
guy.
Wigan, wasn't it?
I think it was.
Johnny Wigan, yeah.
So the first night we get out of the heads and there's good breeze, good nor'easter, steer 182, we steer 182. But during the first night, you know, 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock, the breeze starts to go down, and Craig Whitworth says, well, we're not going to steer 182, you know. We're going to put the pole on the head stay.
And go for it.
And go for it. We got a couple of big lifts, we jibe, another lift, we jibe. In the morning, we're 10 miles ahead of our fellow sailors. And we stayed ahead, and we were lucky because we had strong people on the boat, but we didn't have a huge number of people. 6 is not that many people. We get down to Tasman Island, and we're approaching under Spinnaker, and I said to the guys, come on, we've got to get ready here. We're going to get a jib top on pretty soon here, and you know, let's get ready. We're sailing with a full Spinnaker and blooper. No, it's okay, it's okay. These are Flying Dutchman sailors, you know. And no, guys, come on, we got to get organized. All right. So eventually the bloopers have got to come down. Blooper won't come down because the type of masthead fitting, the snap shackle is stuck up in there. So up I go in the bosun's chair, pull the shackle, force it out, bring it down, and I no sooner had my feet hit the deck than one of those gigantic blasts off Tasman Island hits. And Craig is steering, and I mean, he was just fine for a little bit, but it's seriously a 40-knot gust, you know. Yeah. So, I mean, the boat, eventually the mast's in the water, and, you know, masthead gear's gone, and anyhow, we really suffered very little damage, and Spinnaker down, and off we go, and end up winning the race, you know.
Yeah. And then Well, that was a run all the way because that was the
Yes.
year the concrete Helsel broke the course record.
Oh my God!
Yeah. So we ran all the way.
Yes.
That year.
Well, that I'm sure, and I
Yeah.
think if we'd had to go upwind, we might have been compromised. You know.
I'll take you forward 2 more years,
Mm-hmm.
and your paths again cross with Ted Turner in Pied Piper, the little
Yes.
one-tonner.
Yes.
Tell us about that adventure with Ted.
Well, I had gone to join Sparkman and Stephens and work at Sparkman and Stephens the beginning of 1974. I mean, I literally got off Ceil 3, went to Sydney, packed my bags, and I arrived in New York, I think, on the 2nd or 3rd of...
So how did that come about with Stephens? Did you apply for a job or just...
No.
Word of mouth?
When I was when we were in 73 in Cowes, the American team were there, and I met all the guys, and there were some of I forget which boat, one of them was a Sparkman and Stephens boat, and started talking to, I forget his name.
Andy McGowan?
Andy McGowan.
He was on Charisma.
Exactly. And he said, well, look, we have this kind of program that they run where they're always, like Herman Freyers had done it. So you go there, they organize the visa, they organized to get, there were no money, very little money involved. They paid you the minimum possible amount, but that was okay. It was certainly enough to live on. So he said, would you be interested? And I said, I'd be very interested. So that all took place by snail mail, and the visa came, and I bought my ticket, and off I went. So I was there for a year and a half, and I then had the good fortune to one of their clients asked me whether I would like to design a boat, because we had done the 73 or 74 one-ton cup, and by that stage it was pretty clear that the Sparkman and Stephens boats didn't have the magic anymore. And he said, do you think you could do any better? And I said, yes, I think I could. So we built a boat, America Jane 3, and that we got second in Newport in 75 in the one-ton cup to Pied Piper, sailed by Lowell North, and just an amazing crew. Really top-notch crew. And right after the one-ton cup, which they won, Ted Turner bought it and shipped it to Australia, and he said, hey, would you like to come and sail in that race? It was a Southern Cross year. So we flew down and sailed, and I remember doing a Cabbage Tree Island race, and we just got clobbered by the far boats. Pied Piper was a wonderful boat, but she didn't have a big stern and reaching no way to hold onto the far boat. So in the Hobart race, Gary Wheatley, who'd been the captain on American Eagle, he was the navigator. We sailed that like 6 up, or maybe 7 up, but 6, I think. And every sked was a nor'easter, light to medium nor'easter. Every sked, Gary was putting us further behind the far boats, further and further behind the far boats. And so when we got up to the sort of east, the east coast of Tasmania, St. Helens, somewhere that on the last night, Warwick Tompkins, Commodore Tompkins, said to me, he said, look, Scott, he said, I'm prepared to stay up all night. We've just got to do something here because we're 30 miles behind the far boats. This is just crazy. We're embarrassing. So he steered to starboard, and I gave him foot action from the leeward side. And we stayed up like all night. And then around about 4 o'clock in the morning, we were ounce and a half spinnaker. We rolled into windward, the pole hit, and unfortunately the fore guy let go. If that hadn't happened, we probably would have been all right. But pivot around the spinnaker pole back against the shrouds, boat stops, masthead in the water, masthead gear gone, spinnaker pole bent completely, and boat just dead in the water, spinnaker down. And we're fixing the spinnaker pole, and Commodore had a great idea. Let's cut the bad bit out. We'll put the jockey pole in the middle, bind it, we had some hose clamps, and off we'll go again, you know. So we're busy doing that, and I look up and in the distance I see what I'm really pretty sure is Tasman Island, and I said to Gary, "Hey Gary, that looks like Tasman Island." He said, no way, we're 40 miles from Tasman Island, 45 miles from Tasman Island. I said, "Well look, you can still see the characteristics." It was dawn. You can still see the light characteristics. Hey, please check the chart, you know. You know, he comes running up. It's Tasman Island, you know. So no more spinnaker, jib top, double headsail reach into Tasman Island. Then we still had a big problem because we got up the river at that horrible time of the day when the breeze dies. But we did hold off the fireboats and ended up winning our class. But it's hard to explain to people what it was like sailing before GPS. I mean, Gary, who was a good navigator, I'd sailed with him the whole year on an American Eagle, but he just hadn't plugged in enough southerly set. You know, he'd put in half a knot, whereas I guess we'd been in 1 1/4 knots or something like that.
Difference.
Makes a big difference in 50 hours of sailing. So, and you know, these days I sail an Etchells, and I sail with a bunch of 28-year-old kids, and I tell them a story like that, and I'm quite sure they really don't believe me. You know, you know that there was life before GPS. They've heard of it, but they really don't believe me. You know.
Just take you back to yacht design. You design, I think all your boats were lovely-looking boats.
Yes.
America Jane, and there's a little boat here, the General, for Bruce Sutton.
I saw it this morning.
Little quarter...
half-tonner.
Half-tonner.
Yeah, 30-footer, yeah.
Beautiful-looking little boat. And sail very well.
Yep,
Yeah,
white pointer.
White pointer, Keith Comps boat.
Yes, yeah. No, they were good era of boats and really good quality boats.
So you now reside in the United States.
Yes.
And sailing very successfully in the Etchell class. What, you've won 2 North American...
Three.
3 North American championships.
Yes, yeah.
That's fantastic.
Yeah, no, it's... well, look, I bring... fortunately, I bring my design background to it, and I've got an amazingly good guy with me, Lucas Calabrese, who got a bronze in the 470s. And he loves playing around with all the possibilities. And so, you know, whatever we work out that we would like to change, and we're constantly changing our boat, I mean, working on it, either the systems or the way we tune the mast, rig, etc. And yeah, we have a good team. We have a really good team.
Well, I've known you a long while, Scott, and I knew your father very well. But I'm going to ask you a question. We're 6 days away from the 2019 Rolex Sydney Hobart race, and you've decided to go to Hobart in a 33-footer. Are you sure you're okay?
Yes. I'm fine. I'm absolutely fine. I mean, look, I've done, I believe, 13 Hobart races, but my last one was on Condor in '85 when we got the line honours by 7 seconds. And I've always wanted to do another race, and this opportunity came up, and I thought, hey, it mightn't happen again, so I'm going to take it, you know.
Well, I think if it's a little boat race, that boat Katwinchar that you're on will stand a very, very good chance. Lowest rating boat in the fleet.
Oh, it is?
It is, yeah. So if you get a blow home, you could be right up there.
Yes. Yeah. Well, we're going to be trying.
So sure. Where's home now for you?
I live in New York, in Manhattan, and I've actually lived there ever since I left Australia in '74. Right. And we have another house out on Long Island, and that's where there is an Etchells fleet out there, in Shelter Island out there. So that's where I race during the summer. And, you know, with the Etchells, they're easy to transport, so sure. We go around to regattas, you know.
And just before finishing, what do you think of the modern ocean racing yacht today?
Look, I think it's just amazing, you know. I mean, absolutely off the charts, incredible. The construction, you know, the speeds, everything is just incredible. We were just talking about the southerly set that pre-GPS we had obviously not got right. what amazes me now, and I mean, I'm up in the middle of the night watching the Hobart race, the tracker. The tracker's my friend.
Yes.
You know, and I see the obvious thing is that you come out the heads and you just turn right, and 21 knots, just you don't need to worry too much about the southerly set.
No.
Back in the day when we were doing 5.5 knots,
It was a big player.
it was a big thing, and people had to go for it. You know?
And foiling? What do you think of foiling?
Look, I hope they got the America's Cup right. I mean, it seems from the preliminary photos, it seems pretty exciting. I mean, moth foiling, yes, and I guess the French are so crazy to go around the world foiling. Yeah. It does seem amazing. I'm not sure that I'm going to be doing that, but it seems fantastic. I'm just love like the TP52s where the precision, the loadings are off the charts, and what speeds they get just seem to me amazing. You know.
Well, Scott, you're a 50-year plus member at the CYC.
Yes.
It's great to have you home.
Well, thank you.
And a very happy Christmas and a successful Sydney Hobart race. Just make sure you make it, that's all.
I'll be making it, don't worry.
Okay, and very happy Christmas.
Thank you so much. Thank you.